In this story, a pirate's dark secret about to reveal. The secret, so dangerous that it can destroy everything. It all began when Jim Hawkins, a young boy, found a map that leading to unimaginable treasure. He gathered an experienced and trusted crew and prepared to sail in the unknown sea. But there is a shocking twist that no one sees coming, and it will change everything on this journey. Who is that pirate and what is his secret? You wouldn't believe what happened next. But first, let's prepare to sail. The night before our ship, the Hispaniola, set sail was one of the busiest I'd ever experienced. Everyone was hard at work, loading supplies, organizing gear, and preparing for the long voyage ahead. Friends of the squire, including Mr. Blandley, came aboard in small boats to wish him a safe journey and a successful return. I worked harder that night than I ever had before, even during the busiest times at the Admiral Benbow Inn. By the time dawn was near, I was so tired I could barely stand. Yet I couldn't bring myself to leave the deck. Everything about the ship, the way it moved, the lanterns casting soft light, and the sharp commands of the officers, was so new and exciting. Then one of the crew called out, "Barbecue, sing us a song!" Another shouted, "The old one, Barbecue!" Barbecue was what the crew called Long John Silver, our ship's cook. With a big grin, he rested his crutch under his arm and started singing in a deep voice. 15 men on the dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. The whole crew joined in, their voices booming as they pushed the heavy capstan bars to lift the anchor. Their singing was so lively that it gave me chills. It reminded me of old Captain Billy Bones back at the inn, roaring the same song on stormy nights. The anchor was soon raised, the sails caught the wind, and the Hispaniola began to move. The shoreline slowly disappeared, replaced by open water, and I could feel the thrill of adventure settling deep in my chest. We were finally off to find Treasure Island. At first, everything went smoothly. The ship was strong, the crew worked well together, and Captain Smollett ran things with precision. It seemed like nothing could go wrong, but trouble came quickly. Mr. Arrow, the ship's first mate, was a disaster. He didn't command any respect from the men, and they completely ignored him. Even worse, he had a serious problem with drinking. Within days, he was stumbling around the deck with red cheeks and slurred speech. No one could figure out where he was getting the alcohol. The captain kept a strict watch, but Arrow always managed to show up drunk. When asked about it, he either laughed it off or swore he was only drinking water. He became a danger to himself and the crew. Sometimes he'd fall and hurt himself. Other times, he stayed in his bunk all day, too drunk to work. On rare occasions, he was almost sober and managed to do his job, but never for long. Then one stormy night, Mr. Arrow vanished. "Overboard," the captain said without emotion. "Saves us the trouble of putting him in irons." No one was particularly surprised, and frankly, no one seemed to care much. The only issue was that we now needed someone to take his place. The boatswain, Job Anderson, stepped up to fill the role, though he kept his old title. He proved to be reliable, as did Israel Hands, the ship's coxswain. Hands was a clever and experienced sailor, but there was something unsettling about how close he was with Long John Silver. Long John Silver was a man like no other. Despite having only one leg, he moved around the ship with incredible ease. He had rigged ropes, called Long John's earrings, to help him cross wide spaces. He'd hook his crutch into place, grip the ropes, and swing himself across the deck as fast as any man could walk. He was also a brilliant cook. Even in rough weather, he'd brace himself against the walls and prepare meals as if he were in a steady kitchen on land. The crew admired him. They respected him, and some even seemed to fear him. Silver had a way of winning people over. He was always kind to me, inviting me into his galley to chat. His parrot, Captain Flint, sat in a cage in the corner, squawking loudly whenever anyone came near. "Come in, Hawkins," Silver would say with a warm smile. "You're always welcome here. Sit down and let me tell you a story. Isn't that right, Captain Flint?" "Pieces of eight, pieces of eight," the parrot would screech, repeating it over and over, until Silver threw a cloth over the cage to quiet it down. He told me endless tales of pirates and treasure, claiming that the parrot had seen it all. "She's been to Madagascar, Malabar, and Suriname," he'd say proudly. "She's seen more wickedness than most men alive, And she learned to say pieces of 8 when Flint's crew recovered 350,000 of them from a shipwreck. Silver spoke so kindly and seemed so genuine that I couldn't help but think he was one of the best men aboard. Not everyone got along, though. Captain Smollett and the squire had very different views. The captain, ever cautious, warned that the voyage made him uneasy. "Some of the crew are fine," he admitted, "and the ship's a beauty, but we're not home yet, and I don't trust this journey." The squire dismissed these concerns, calling the captain overly suspicious. Their arguments left a sour mood on deck, but most of the men stayed cheerful, thanks to the squire's generosity. He provided extra grog, better food, and even a barrel of apples for anyone to enjoy. The captain grumbled about this, saying, "Spoiling the hands never ends well." As it turned out, that apple barrel would play a key role in saving us all. It was near the end of our outward journey, and excitement was high. Everyone was eager to spot Treasure Island on the horizon. One evening, after finishing my duties, I decided to grab an apple before heading to bed. The barrel was nearly empty, so I climbed inside to search. The gentle rocking of the ship and the soft sound of the waves made me sleepy. Before I knew it, I had dozed off. I woke suddenly when a heavy man sat down against the barrel. I froze. It was Long John Silver, and he was talking to another sailor. Their conversation made my blood run cold. Silver spoke of his pirate past, of battles, plunder, and treasure, and explained how he planned to betray the ship's officers once the treasure was in sight. "Gentlemen of fortune," Silver said, "live rough, but we eat well and grow rich. Most waste their share on rum and nonsense, but not me. I've saved my money, and after this voyage, I'll retire as a proper gentleman." The young sailor he spoke to was clearly impressed. By the end of their talk, he had pledged his loyalty to Silver. As I listened, trembling in the dark, I realized the truth. Long John Silver wasn't just the ship's cook. He was a pirate and the leader of a mutiny that could cost us our lives. Worse, he was slowly turning the rest of the crew to his side. I knew I had to act quickly. The lives of the captain, the squire, and every honest man aboard depended on me. Hiding inside the apple barrel, my heart pounded in my chest. I barely dared to breathe as I listened to the men talking just outside. Long John Silver's voice was calm, but his words chilled me to the bone. "Now listen here," he said. "We don't know where the treasure is, not exactly, but that's what the squire and the doctor are for. They'll lead us to it. They'll even help us load it onto the ship. Once we've got it safely aboard, then, by thunder, we'll see who's in charge." Dick, one of the younger crew members, asked nervously, "Why not take over now?" Silver sighed impatiently. "And what'll you do once you've got the ship, eh? None of you knows how to navigate. You can steer a course, sure, but who's going to set one? You'd get us all stranded in the middle of nowhere. That's why we keep Smollett alive, at least for now. We'll let him sail us into safer waters first." "But it's so hard to wait," muttered Dick. Silver's tone grew sharper. "Hard to wait? You think I've made it this far without learning patience? I've seen plenty of fools like you, always in a rush, always thirsty for rum. And where do they end up? Hanging at execution dock, that's where." Israel Hands, the coxswain, tried to calm Silver down. "Take it easy, John. No one's arguing with you." Silver snorted. "I know your type, Israel. I've sailed with men like you before, always wanting their fun, never thinking about the future. Let me tell you something. Fun won't keep you alive. Patience will." Dick, trying to change the subject, asked another question. "What do we do with the captain and the others once we've got the treasure?" Silver chuckled darkly. "Now that's a smart question, lad. Do we maroon them on a deserted island? Leave them to fend for themselves? That's what the English Navy would do. Or do we cut them down, Flint style? Dead men don't bite, as old Billy Bones used to say." Israel nodded. "Billy always knew how to handle things, but he's dead now, and so is Flint. Guess it's up to us." Silver's voice hardened. "Mark my words, lads. When the time comes, we'll deal with them properly. No loose ends, no second chances. This time it's serious. I'll not have any of them showing up back home to spoil our fun. Duty is duty, and I'll do mine when the moment comes. You can trust me on that." The men cheered, raising their drinks in a toast. I could barely believe what I was hearing. These weren't just rough sailors. They were ruthless pirates, and Silver was their leader. Just then, a shout came from the lookout. "Land ho!" The deck exploded into chaos as everyone rushed to sea. In the confusion, I slipped out of the barrel and ducked behind the sails, trying to stay out of sight. My heart raced. I knew I had to find a way to warn the captain and the others before it was too late. When I finally dared to look, I saw what the lookout had spotted: 3 sharp hills rising out of the fog. The tallest hill was still shrouded in mist, but there was no doubt about it. We had reached Treasure Island. Captain Smollett wasted no time. "Bring us closer to the eastern side," he ordered. "We'll sail around to the south and anchor behind that smaller islet." Silver, standing nearby, nodded. "Aye, sir. That's Skeleton Island to the south. The big hill is called the Spyglass. Pirates used to keep lookout from there." The captain handed Silver a map. "Does this look familiar?" Silver studied it carefully, his face revealing nothing. "Yes, sir. That's the place. Looks like a proper chart, all neat and tidy." But I knew something Silver didn't. The map he was looking at wasn't the original. It was a copy. The red crosses marking the treasure's location were missing. For now, he didn't seem to notice, but I could tell he wasn't happy about being tested. As the crew scrambled about, Silver approached me. He rested a hand on my shoulder, smiling warmly. "Ah, Jim, this island is a paradise. You'll love exploring it, climbing trees, hunting goats, bathing in the streams. When you're ready for a bit of adventure, just let old John know, and I'll pack you a snack for the journey." I forced a smile, trying to hide my fear. Did he suspect I'd overheard him? His friendliness felt like a trap, but I couldn't let him know what I was thinking. When he finally moved away, I breathed a sigh of relief. I needed to act quickly. The captain, the squire, and Dr. Livesey had to know what I'd overheard. I found Dr. Livesey on deck and pulled him aside. "Doctor," I whispered urgently, "get the captain and the squire into the cabin. I have something terrible to tell you." The doctor's face remained calm, but I could tell he understood the seriousness of my tone. "Thank you, Jim," he said loudly, pretending we'd had a normal conversation. Then he turned and walked over to the captain and the squire. A few moments later, I was called into the cabin. The 3 men were seated around the table, their expressions serious. "Speak, Jim," said the squire. "Tell us what you know." I told them everything: Silver's plans, the mutiny, the danger we were all in. The room was silent as I spoke, but I could see the worry on their faces. When I finished, Captain Smollett poured me a glass of wine. "You've done well, Jim," he said. "You may have just saved all our lives." The squire nodded. "You've shown great courage, Jim. I won't forget it." Captain Smollett began to outline a plan. "We can trust 7 men counting Jim. The rest are with Silver. We can't turn back now, or they'll attack. Our best chance is to wait until they find the treasure. When they're distracted, we'll strike." Dr. Livesey agreed. "Jim, you're the key to this plan. The men trust you. Stay close to them and listen for anything that might help us." I nodded, though I felt the weight of their words. I was just a boy, but now I was at the center of this dangerous game. If I made one wrong move, it could mean the end for all of us. And so, young Jim Hawkins uncovered the deadly truth. The ship's cook, Long John Silver, was not just a friendly sailor, but the mastermind of a mutiny that threatened everyone's lives. With the treasure close at hand and betrayal lurking in every shadow, the stakes couldn't be higher. But what happens when the crew lands on Treasure Island? Who will strike first in this dangerous game of survival? And can Jim outsmart the most ruthless pirate of them all? The answers lie just ahead. Subscribe now and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the story. And if you want to be part of our next adventure, make sure to leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment, because the next part of this story will leave you speechless. Check the playlist or click on the next video to watch. I will see you there.